Welcome back to the deep dive. You've sent us a really intriguing stack of source material today. It's a journey that starts in the armory and ends up somewhere like a temple.
It really does. We have texts on everything from, tactical training and physical weaponry all the way to ancient philosophy.
And practical techniques for mental control. It's quite the juxtaposition.
It's a masterful curation, honestly, because it forces you to reconcile two worlds that seem like complete opposites. The sources don't really focus on the tools themselves.
No, they don't. It's all about intent.
Exactly, intent and will. The whole argument is that any instrument, whether it's a rifle or, the human mind itself, is just an extension of our own will, our abilities.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack that philosophy, how human intent completely redefines what a weapon even is. Then we pivot to the practical side.
The methods for harnessing your internal power.
The ultimate self-improvement project. Okay, let's unpack this.
I think the lens we have to use here is this idea of transmutation. We're looking at how to take something that has this potential for destruction and repurpose it.
Repurpose it for what? Self-mastery.
Self-mastery for cognitive growth, yeah. It really asks the question, can focused intention turn lethal potential into something positive, something focused?
Okay, so let's start exactly where the source material begins. In the physical world. There's this powerful observation early on about the satisfaction you feel when practicing with physical tools. It calls it a feeling of newly obtained power.
And they don't hold back on what those tools are. The list is, well, it's extensive.
It really is. Knives, swords, bow staffs, T-batons, bows, and crossbows.
Pistols, guns, rifles, even flamethrowers and explosives.
Right. And the sheer breadth of that arsenal, it forces you to see that this sense of power isn't about one specific mechanism. It's tied to the person using it, to your agency.
It speaks to a level of control. And this is where the sources make a real philosophical leap. They argue these things stop being just inanimate objects.
They become charged. They function as an extension of abilities, will, and vital energy. What do you think the source means by that, charging them with vital energy?
Well, I think it suggests that when you pick one of these things up, you're imposing your will onto it, onto inert matter. It's a fundamental act of human agency.
So it's not the gun that's negative or positive.
Precisely. It's the intention, the vital energy, the purpose that the user projects onto it. If you take away the intention of harm, the tool is suddenly available for completely different constructive uses.
And that's where the non-harmful applications come in. The sources highlight two big ones. First is catharsis. It proposes using this arsenal as a source of controlled, safe release for, built-up negative energy, breaking, hitting, slicing, all in a secure environment.
This is a fascinating concept, but it needs a little scrutiny, Is smashing something or shooting targets really management? Or is it just a sophisticated way of displacing the feeling?
That's a good question.
The source argues that because the act is controlled, it's disciplined, and it's done safely, like breaking boards in martial arts or setting off a firework, that redirection of energy prevents it from being turned on other people. Or on yourself.
So the discipline and control involved in the practice, that's the real benefit, not just the destruction. And that leads right into the second application, self-testing.
Right. The tools become a training mechanism, a very rigorous one. They push you past your perceived limits. They demand precision, concentration.
So if you're practicing with a bow, you're not just learning to shoot an arrow.
No, you're developing focus. If you're practicing martial arts, you're building discipline. The physical item is just a feedback loop for your mental state.
And the practical applications they list are all very responsible. Shooting ranges, competitive sports like airsoft, martial arts. The takeaway for you, the listener, is that responsible practice can turn potential violence into enjoyment, a challenge, even camaraderie.
That's the key. But the sources are also incredibly meticulous about setting boundaries. Right after this discussion on empowerment, there's an absolute line drawn in the sand.
And weapons of mass destruction. WMDs.
Yes. They're explicitly excluded. They mention thermonuclear bombs, biological attacks.
And the message is just unequivocal. WMDs have no place in a civilized society. They're instruments of pure chaos, not control.
That boundary is so critical. It marks the point where personal agency and self-improvement just end. An indiscriminate, catastrophic power begins. WMDs represent a total failure of intention.
Which leads us perfectly to the pivot. If the sources define the limit of external power, the next step is to look inward. They pivot sharply from the flamethrower to the brain.
The ultimate tool. They call it the first and most powerful weapon to this day. It governs everything. Thoughts, intuition, all our unconscious body processes.
Here's where it gets really interesting. They link this idea of mental supremacy to all this ancient universal wisdom. We're not just in tactical philosophy anymore.
No, we're deep in core human psychology. They cite the inscription from the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, "Know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and God."
And then they pair that with the practical simplicity of the Buddha. The mind is everything. What you think, you become.
This isn't just a spiritual idea, though. It's a statement about manifesting reality through focused attention. It's very practical.
And then my favorite, the Japanese proverb, the focused mind can pierce through stone. What I love is that these aren't just lofty ideals. They're principles of concentrated force.
They lay all that philosophical groundwork, and then, surprisingly, they bring in Sun Tzu, a master of military strategy.
Right. And he says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. But then the source immediately filters that through a psychological lens.
To identify the true enemy?
Which is fear. They just state it plainly. Fear is the true enemy, the only enemy. And that completely flips the goal from winning some external battle
to achieving internal peace. It's synthesized in this powerful anonymous quote they use: "The battle is always within us."
Any external conflict is a continuation of our own internal struggle.
If we achieve inner peace, the battle will cease because the real enemy is already defeated.
That reframes everything. Every external stress, every argument is just a reflection of some internal struggle we haven't resolved.
And the relevance for you, the listener, is so direct. If your thoughts and actions create a ripple effect, then controlling and refining your inner state, harnessing the power of your will, is the single most powerful thing you can do to improve your existence.
So if the brain is the ultimate weapon and fear is the target, we need an aiming system. And the sources deliver one, a clear, step-by-step meditation technique for mental clarity.
And the structure is brilliant because it tackles both external and internal noise one after the other.
Right. You start with preparation, removing all the excess noise. Find a quiet place, no distractions, no phones, no screens. They even say take off your watch.
To eliminate the tyranny of time.
Exactly. You relax your body, close your eyes, and just appreciate the lack of stimuli.
That's all about shutting down the external demands. The next step is internal. It's about cleansing. You focus on all the mental clutter, your compulsive thoughts, worries, presumptions.
And the visualization here is so powerful. As you exhale, you have to imagine all that clutter just falling away into a dark abyss.
From which there's no turning back.
Yes, that part is crucial. Why the dark abyss, do you think?
Well, it's key to the cognitive restructuring. It ensures the thoughts aren't just put aside. They're made completely irrecoverable. They can't bounce back. It's a definitive psychological disposal. And when you let go of that, you feel lighter, more present.
In that clear, uncluttered state, you redefine yourself simply by saying, I exist. No titles, no history, no expectations, just I exist.
It's a radical stripping away of the ego. And to ground yourself, the exercise then has you focus on your physical form, your hands, your arms, your face, your legs, feeling what each part is feeling. It reinforces control.
Okay, so now you're in this heightened state of consciousness, and this is the moment for reevaluation. The source tells you to reflect on where you stand, what qualities you need, what you aspire to, what you need to leave in the past. It's the map-making phase.
And the rationale for this is maybe the most intriguing part. They say the mind, it already knows the answers.
Right. Our unconscious is constantly running these complex calculations that we're not even aware of.
So we're not trying to find new knowledge. We're just clearing the signal so we can hear our own reason. It's about purification, removing that constant barrage of information that muddies our perception.
Exactly. And because this process gives you such clarity, the ethical warning that comes next is paramount.
It has to be. You must refrain from using this state to seek guidance on anything that could cause harm to yourself or to others. That clarity comes with enormous responsibility.
It's the ultimate check on the ultimate weapon. The sources remind us the fact that we know how to do something doesn't mean that we should do it. Your reason has to be guided by ethics.
And that responsible use of knowledge brings us to the last major concept, mental alchemy.
I love this part. They draw a parallel to the philosopher's stone, turning base metals into gold, but for your emotional landscape.
This is the practical application of that purified will we were talking about. The goal is to take potent negative emotions, sadness, anger, discontent, stress, and transform them.
Using concentrated willpower.
Yes. Transform them into motivation for tangible improvement, success or creativity.
Let's use their specific example. If you feel intense frustration about something you can't control instead of letting it eat at you.
Or burdening others with it, you redirect that powerful, frustrated energy. You pour it into, say, rigorous physical exercise or martial arts training.
So the energy of the frustration isn't eliminated, it's transmuted.
It becomes fuel. Fuel for improving your fitness, for perfecting a difficult technique. You're taking destructive potential and forcing it into personal gain. It's an incredible level of control.
You stop accumulating that negative emotional debt, and the source frames it as metaphorically cleansing those destructive impulses, turning them into strengthening movements.
And it's not limited to physical action either. The sources give other outlets.
Painting a picture or playing music.
Or writing, or even just building a detailed, logical plan to overcome the situation that caused the frustration in the first place. All those things demand focus and discipline.
The same qualities you develop through training with the physical tools. It all connects.
It really does. But, and this is important, the sources also acknowledge that we don't always need conflict as fuel. Great things can be driven by positive reinforcement too.
Happiness, curiosity, love, gratitude.
Seeing the beauty in the world. It's a dual operating system for motivation. You can use alchemy to neutralize the bad and positive emotions to provide the forward momentum.
So if we look back at this whole journey, from a rifle to a meditating mind, the ultimate lesson from this deep dive is about the responsible wielding of power.
All kinds of power.
Right. The sources lead us from handling external force responsibly to mastering our internal force with wisdom. So what does this all mean for you?
I think it means that the greatest strength is never external. It's achieved internally, through discipline, through purification. We can tie this all together with that Quero Apache prayer cited in the source.
Looking behind, I am filled with gratitude.
Looking forward, I am filled with vision. Looking upwards, I'm filled with strength. Looking within, I discover peace.
A truly integrated perspective.
And here is a final, maybe provocative thought for you to carry forward. If our mind already has the answers, and the real enemy is internal clutter and fear, how much of the energy we spend fighting external conflicts is just misplaced?
You mean on social media, in news cycles, and arguments?
Exactly. The real work, the most profound power, might simply be found in purifying ourselves from that constant barrage of information so that our own deep, clear reason can finally be heard. That is the ultimate act of will.